Hello all you amazing people out there. My name is Huck Stewart and I am a learning designer and an educator. Whether you're teaching face-to-face, in an online setting, or you're trying to do remote teaching, I've heard a lot of teachers tell me that they're worried about student engagement. When I taught middle school math, this was also a concern of mine. Now as a teacher, I still had highly engaging activities and a lot of collaborative work, but when it came time for me to demonstrate and present material to the class, I had no way of knowing if students were even listening, following along, and paying attention. And I can only imagine at this point, if you're trying to teach remotely, you've got a group of students who may or may not be showing their faces or may not have their microphones on. You don't even know if they're listening or not.
Anyone? The Great Depression passed anyone? The tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act.
Now I'm here to tell you that when I was a teacher, a huge game changer for me was when I discovered interactive and engagement technology. This technology I discovered allowed me as a teacher to put my presentation materials directly in front of each student on their own device and allow them to interact with my content as I was presenting it. In this video, we're going to dive more deeply into what this interactive material looks like, what kind of applications there are out there for you to use, both free and purchased, and some tips and tricks to help you implement these appropriately in your classroom. Okay, without spending too much more time, let's dive in. The easiest way for me to be able to explain to you what these interactive presentation tools can do, I want to just demonstrate them for you. You'd expect every student to have some sort of device, whether it's a mobile cell phone or their own Chromebooks or laptops or whatever you happen to have. But every student's gonna need their own device. If you're teaching remotely, you'll likely be sharing your screen via some sort of technology or tool like something like Zoom. And I find it interesting that this kind of technology or these ideas aren't really new, right? Like when I was in high school and college, a lot of my teachers used what they called clickers, like these little things that were like remotely connected to some sort of presentation so that we could select multiple choice answers and then the teachers could see how the students are doing. That's the general idea here, but it goes further than that. These kind of technologies allow your students to be able to interact with your presentation material synchronously while seeing your presentation material in front of their own devices, or even asynchronously where they can actually go through your slideshows and engage and interact with the questions that you put there on their own time. Many of these tools also allow you to save student answers and student responses so that you can review them later. Think of it as formative feedback that you can build into your entire lesson from beginning to the end. For this demonstration, what I'm first going to show you is how a teacher might set this up. I'm choosing to go with Pear Deck because Pear Deck's the one I'm most familiar with. I use it as a teacher several times. Now at the end of this video, I'll go through the list of other technologies that I've heard about and read about that are similar to Pear Deck. Each one of them have their own features and different levels that you may have to pay or have free versions of. It's worth exploring each one and maybe testing out free versions of them to see which one works best for you and your student. So what you can see here on my desktop is Google Slides. It's a slideshow presentation that I created. And as a teacher, this is what I'm seeing on my end. So if I'm a teacher, I'll be setting it up this way. I have my presentation, my slideshow, each slide with the content and information on it. And then I have an add-on right here. What that means is that when I run this presentation, the questions that are visible down here will show up. I haven't bought a license to Pear Deck, so again, I have no affiliation with this particular company or this particular platform. I am just using it because I'm used to it. I've already created an account. All right, like I said, the best way for me to explain how this works is just to show you. So I'm going to minimize this screen and keep it in the top left corner of my screen. This box right here represents the teacher's presentation slide. And these three boxes represent the student's computer, right? So each one of these is maybe student A, student B, and student C. Now as a teacher, I've already set up my presentation with a bunch of built-in questions. So I'm going ahead and just hit start lesson. It also allows me to select whether I want this to be a instructor-paced or a student-paced activity. For today's purposes, I'm going to do instructor paced. Now, this launches my presentation. So if I were in class right now and I had a bunch of students that were face-to-face traditional classroom, they would see this up on their screens. This would be the point where I'd ask them to open up their laptops or get their cell phones out, go to this website and type in that code. Now I'm on a Mac, and so I'm presenting with Google Chrome, but I also have a student who is on Safari, and I have a student who's on another Google Chrome, and I have another student who's on Firefox. I'm also logging in as a student with my mobile device. So there you go, you can kind of see, I'll follow along this way as well and occasionally show you what it looks like on the mobile device. So this is gonna be a classroom that's gonna have 4 students and 1 instructor. Now they type in the same code, everybody types in the same code. And now it's logging me in. Now, if I'm already logged into a Google account, then it just counted that one. So you see that these 2 had already been logged into one of my many Google accounts that I have. And this one's asking me which one I want to actually sign into. I'll just select maybe that one. You can see that every time I log in real time, it's showing me how many students are in my classroom. So I know right off the bat who's with me and who's not. Again, on the mobile device, it's also asking me to sign in, and so I will do that now. Very good. So I've got 4 students, they're all in. Here's this one right up here. Once I feel like I'm ready, I can just hit start class. If I were presenting online, again, I would make sure I had the same number of students in my Pear Deck class as are showing up in the Zoom session. This kind of technology allows for you to quickly see who's logged in and is already checking out, and who's with you and who's not, right? And so that's what this is built-in formative feedback in your presentation. I'm gonna go ahead and hit start class now. Now this first slide that I show on my Google Slides is the same pieces of information that are showing up on the student side, right? Now on the cell phone, it's gonna be a little bit different. The smaller screen doesn't show you both the question and the presentation. It shows the presentation and allows for me to click right here to answer that question. So just wanted to show you that. All this is just getting formative feedback, knowing right off the bat who's answering what. So student A thinks this is cool. Student B says this is helpful. Student C is not paying attention, okay? And cell phone student is gonna answer the question. This is amazing. So as a teacher, if I click on show responses, this is gonna give me information on students and what they're selecting. Now this might be an actual multiple choice question that has a right answer to it, or it could be like a poll. What I can see is the number of responses. I have 3 responses, but I have 4 students in my classroom. So this tells me that somebody is not with me. Most of these applications actually keep track of student information and shows you who's engaged and who is not throughout the presentation. Now, as a teacher, I could take that as formative feedback and decide whether or not we need to continue discussing this. Now watch this. Once, as a teacher, I'm ready to move on and I click this next slide, what does it do on the rest of the pages? It moves the students along with me. So their screens are always going to be on the same page as me. All right, so what kind of questions does Pear Deck happen to offer in their free version? Well, this one's kind of cool actually, because this is a short response. You either say this out loud or you have the question built into your presentation material and you say, what do you guys think about this? What kind of things do they have to offer? And you have students type their response. Okay, so I've given my students some time to respond, and again, let's see what it looks like. When I click on show responses here, I can scroll down and it shows me what people are typing. I can take that information as feedback and I can decide if my class is generally getting it or if they're not getting it. Now, if I wanted to add a follow-up question to this, I can do a new prompt here. I can ask them how they're feeling right then in the moment, right? And so this one's asking students to drag the blue dot onto where they're at. If I want to see how they're doing, I can see the kind of the hot spots of like where they're at. So it's just kind of cool. All right, let's keep going. I just wanted to show you a few other examples. This one's a number example. 2 students have done 10, 1 student selected 13, and 1 student selected 14, and kind of shows me that range there, which is kind of interesting. This one also has a built-in website, so if you put in the website there, students are allowed to interact with that website. Now this might be really helpful if you have a really cool interactive web page that allows students to kind of play around with it a little bit. In this case, it won't give me any data on seeing student interact with this website, but it does give them the access to the website. It's kind of cool. This also allows for me to put in built-in audio. So if a student wanted to actually listen to a pre-recorded audio of any kind, they just click on the headphone thing, hit play. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. There you go. Just a few other pages that Pear Deck itself has sort of built in that I didn't even have to develop, they just kind of build it in and you can just do it. So they have kind of a warm-up page. This one's kind of cool. They have a drawing page, and so each student can draw on whatever they think. You know, they can also do things like hit the type text button and type something here. How does this look? You know, as you can scroll through individual students' responses. I think it allows you to do an overlay here, which can get kind of interesting if you're thinking about maybe hot spots or isolating or highlighting a specific issue or problem on the page. So just trying to get some brainstorming of how other pages and how you might use them. Asking these questions in an online setting, if you just say, okay, what do you guys think? And then wait for a few students to respond, whether it's in class or in remote, you almost always have those 2 or 3 that are willing to respond to everything, and the rest of them just aren't responding, right? And so that's what this kind of technology does, is it gives everybody an opportunity to respond, and it forces them to at least show that they're being engaged or they're trying, right? And it's really easy and really clear up front off the bat who's with you and who's not. This would be a game changer for remote teaching, right? This is a huge deal. If I'm a remote teacher and I've got a student who didn't answer any of these questions, what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be reaching out to that student and encouraging them for the next session to answer the questions, because now they know that I know they're not paying attention. Now, there are going to be a few tips and tricks that are going to be really helpful for you. The first thing I would encourage you to remember is simply technology does not guarantee good teaching. I mean, and the logic of this is pretty clear for most people, but if I went and bought high quality paint material and a paintbrush and really great painting tools, does that guarantee I'm going to be a great painter? Absolutely not. You have still got to develop highly engaging and very intentional lessons. You've got to align your lessons to your learning outcomes. You've got to consider formative questions. You need to anticipate common misunderstandings. A good teacher is going to take this data and information and the feedback they got from the students during the lesson and adjust their presentation for the following lesson to address any misunderstandings or common questions or concerns. Now, if you're new to a technology like this, I would also encourage you to practice with the technology and teaching before you actually go live in front of your students. I would also encourage you to find a way to record your lesson. No matter what, remember that good teaching cannot be replaced with technology. You wouldn't stand up in front of a group of students and just share your presentation with them and then talk at them for 50 minutes without expecting them to do anything or write anything down or think about anything or reflect on anything, would you?
Anyone? Anyone seen this before? The Laffer curve. Anyone know what this says?
That's just not good teaching. It's even harder when you're teaching remote to know who's there and who's not, and who's listening and who's not. And so teaching that way just isn't going to work. All right, finally, the last thing I'm going to share with you are some of the tools and technologies that I've ran into. This is not going to be an exhaustive list. I am sure there are applications out there that do the same technology I'm talking about that I don't mention in this video. If you know of any, please leave a comment and tell me what those tools or applications are that you use and how you use them. Now, for all of these applications I've mentioned, like I said, the only one I've ever played around with are Zoom and Pear Deck, but I will put a link to each one of these applications in the little doobly-doo below. So no surprise there. The first one I want to share with you, of course, is Pear Deck. Pear Deck has 3 different versions, a free or basic version, and then a paid for individual subscription. And then of course they also have an institution-wide price. Others that I've heard of that I haven't actually used are ClassFlow, Spiral, Nearpod, and surprisingly Zoom. Now I actually have used Zoom. Zoom does have a few built-in interactive presentation tools that allow students to draw on top of the screen that you're sharing, or answer questions that you've posted, or even put comments in their chat. If you're not using these features and you're using Zoom, you might want to consider taking a look at that. So that is it. I hope this video was helpful for you. This technology has sure been helpful for me in my years of teaching, and I would not go into a classroom, especially a remote classroom right now, without some sort of engagement, interactive presentation tool and I would make sure I was using it on a regular basis. If you found this video helpful and you know a teacher who might benefit from this video, please share it with them. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's any tools or technologies that you want me to explore, and I'll make a video of it. If you like what I'm doing, consider subscribing, as I'm going to continue making more videos that are directed toward teachers and engaging their students through online teaching or remote teaching. Have a great day teaching, and thank you for watching.